welcome to Dawg Daze, where we talk about all things cannabis here in the doghouse. However, today we are making an exception. We are also big fans of plant medicine here in the doghouse. So we have a couple of special guests with us. We have our good friend from the Operation Purify, Carlos Duran. And we also have another individual, Ryan Carey, who is also with Operation Purify. And I've heard a lot about this organization. So what's it all about? Carlos, let's start it off with you.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for having us. I want to say that we get to do several interviews a year, and your intro by far is one of the sexiest, dopest intros. Oh, I mean, girl,
Yeah.
100.
Yeah, really good.
Really love
it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what Ryan and I have adapted into our lives is the use of plant medicine. And this includes Santa Maria, which is cannabis. It includes using tobacco in a sacred way through the teachings of ancestors and the carriers of that wisdom. And this very sacred plant for us, which is called yahe. And most people know yahe as ayahuasca. Yahe is the Colombian version of this sacred brew, which really, it's no matter what you may or may not know or heard, it really is a vine and a leaf that are brewed in water and mixed together. For the most part, there are some rare cultures that mix other herbs or stuff, but let's say 98.8% of all cultures that drink ayahuasca, it's just the vine and the leaf brewed in water. There's nothing else. It's a tea, basically. In fact, sometimes they call it a tea. And so through a very cool story, short story, Ryan and I met physically in the jungles of Colombia. Ryan is one of the most badass, most brilliant, most beautiful men I have been blessed to call a brother. And, you know, the dude's credentials speak for himself. And I'll let him talk about that. But suffice it to say, he is a brother in life whose heart burns with a passion like mine, which is supporting in the healing of veterans. And that's why we taglined our program, bringing veterans home, mind, body, and spirit. Right. So what we cooked up was this thing called Operation Purify. And long story short, it's a journey into the jungle for 14 days, where there are many types of healing ceremonies and practices. There are 4 of these yahe ceremonies, these ayahuasca ceremonies. There's an online live preparation that takes place for 3 weeks before we head to the jungle, with some email support and guidelines. And then there's 5 weeks of live integration support. Right. And then we have this brotherhood. For Operation Purify, it's just called the Operation Purify channel, because Operation Purify is open to men, women, and as Ryan would tell you, and for the first time in 2025, we're also opening to military family members.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Of a vet that's been impacted. And then just to close this, yes, we are partnered with a nonprofit called HEAL, Heaven and Earth Ancestral League, and they offer scholarships to the veterans that come. Each journey is 15 days, and it's limited to 15 veterans. So it's a lot of one-on-one love. Ryan, my brother, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, a whole lot. It's like,
well, I got ahead of myself. I apologize, guys.
That's good.
Carlos, tell us your background, because this is on Citizen Green TV. So, what is your background? Do you come from a military family? You definitely show a lot of love for the veterans.
That's an interesting. I think the word is a dichotomy. It for sure is a puzzle wrapped in an enigma, shrouded by a riddle kind of thing. So long story short, First, big shout out to Citizen Green TV for helping us spread the word of this healing opportunity. Big shout out to Grunt Style Foundation and Grunt Style for all their support and all their love to veterans and supporting Operation Purify. And my story, I was born and raised in New Jersey. My parents are immigrants from Cuba. I'm first generation USA, right? I have not served in the military in this lifetime. According to a lot of past life readings, I had many lifetimes in the military. Many times in this life, I feel like I'm atoning and making amends, and not in a heavy way or a bad way, just as in this is what I owe, and this is the opportunity to square it up, kind of thing. My brother did serve in Afghanistan in the Navy. He did 2 tours up there. And that fucked him up, but that's not the reason I do this. Look, long story short, I come from a very interesting family. I was born in the streets. My family is a certified outlaw family, or was. Until the feds come knocking, nobody knows how strong the arm of the law really is.
Right.
And many years ago, my family was destroyed because of the choices we had made, or I was a kid at the time. But where we went. And so I began to search in my late 20s for something more. And through a series of events, I found Yahe. And for the teacher that I drank with 13 years ago is the same teacher that I drink with and have continued to drink with. I truly don't know much about ayahuasca. I've never drank it with other tribes or settings. I've drank with the same tribe for 13 years. So I understand this. I understand this lane of Yahe. I was enamored by how powerful its healing is. Like literally, it's 13 years. You observe things, right? And I noticed that the truth, out of about 1,000 people that come to a retreat, excuse me, over a year's time, 998 will really, truly receive healing in their life. And what I learned is that the other 2, honestly, didn't give it enough time. Didn't put in the work. Because that's the other thing. This is not a magic bullet. This is not right? I'm not going to say that you're going to come to an ayahuasca ceremony and it's magic fairy dust and unicorn rainbows are now all that you experience throughout your life. That's madness.
Right.
But you're empowered to release shame, guilt, and pain of the past. You're empowered to love yourself right here and right now in every moment.
Nice.
You're guided to heal the wounds of your inner child because and Ryan, if I could, I'm gonna pitch this and I want you to run with it because you developed this so well. We've come to learn that when we're working with veterans, more than healing the trauma of military service, we're healing the childhood wounds that pushed them into military service.
Oh, yeah. You're hitting the nail on the head. That complex trauma.
Yeah. The way I like to describe my experience with Yahe is that I showed up with a story. And the medicine told me the same story, but in a much different way. And my father, when he was 18, he crossed the border into the U.S. and joined the U.S. Marines. We volunteer for this stuff. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with us, but we've always marched to the sound of the guns. He served with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines in his first tour in Quezon.
Wow.
He was training Marines in Hawaii with 1st Battalion, 27th Marines, and the Tet Offensive hit. So he re-upped and went and fought with the soldiers that he was training, and that was that was what they call Tet 2, which was the second part of Tet Offensive, where they went through the Citadel and met the NVA in a meeting engagement across the Perfume River.
Wow.
Both units won a President's Unit Citation, and he came home from that at 22 years old to Canada with no support, nothing, just none of his brothers around, a legion that wouldn't accept him because he was in a foreign war, so very alone. So I saw that. I grew up with that, and we were not kind to Vietnam veterans. America was not kind. Canada wasn't either. And so think of the guilt and the shame that was buried in him. And think of his childhood traumas, right? I won't go into that, but in my experience, now you're seeing this male lineage going back. We're all soldiers. We're all police. I come to it the opposite way Carlos did, but I always get along with those characters so well because there's not that much difference, right? The same thing that, and I'm not, saying, hey, get out there and be a criminal. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the same things that make you successful in that arena will make you successful as a soldier as in any other walk. That's why we connect so well. There's an underlying toughness to a street kid. There's an underlying toughness to a soldier that people just don't understand. They don't understand how physically and mentally tough we had to be. But again, that's a story. We had to be that. We had to be this thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, I went into the military with being brought up in that environment. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, it was rough. But man, I learned to be a good football player. And I played in the Canadian Football League, and I didn't join the military till I was 30.
Wow.
I always wanted to join, but then people kept asking me to play football. So I'm like, well, all right, sure. You gonna pay me to play football now? Okay. It was kind of like the little kid, right? And then when I left the military, I was like, and I was working, I was like, man, I miss the camaraderie. I miss the teamwork. I miss people that are going to work and doing things that are bigger than themselves,
Yeah.
So I joined at 30 after seeing the planes crash into the towers at work. I went and joined right away. And I served in the Canadian Armed Forces for 14 years. And I did a pretty heavy tour in Afghanistan, west of Kandahar City, during Operation Medusa, fought alongside American soldiers. Slept beside them, fought beside them, same, chewing on the same dirt, same war, same stuff, right? And then came home from that and literally had the same experience, right? Here's your bag of drugs and go talk to a psychologist. And it's interesting because yesterday I just ordered my cannabis. I don't use it a lot, but I still have it around. I don't use it as much anymore. And it's an interesting topic to get into. And why don't I use it as much anymore? Because it doesn't serve me anymore. It did at a time. And through the coaching I got in plant medicine, it taught me how to go into my use of Santa Maria cannabis with more intent. But the beauty of Canada is the government supports it, and we get really good quality cannabis. We can get it in oil. We can get it in gummies to help us sleep. If you don't want to smoke it, we can get it in oil. We can get it in dry leaf. So that's pretty helpful. And so, but of course, even that by itself, because I wasn't really getting the coaching, it got me off pharmaceuticals, but it really didn't, free me from my story. It started to. I think it started to. It started to break things up a bit. It started to let me see things differently. But it wasn't until I discovered yahe, which is a very powerful. I don't judge any ayahuasca or apply any judgment. You're gonna go drink ayahuasca and you're called to it and it's with good people. Go do it. But for me, my experience with yahe was such a more powerful experience than any other ayahuasca that I had tried. I needed to explore it more, and thank God I did, because that's how I met Carlos.
Awesome.
And I went to an all men's retreat called Savage Encounter in January of 2023, and it was about halfway into that I said, "Why don't you do this for veterans?" And that's how the conversation started. And we can get into the detail. Carlos is very good at the details of yahe, but for me, the experience was very primal. It was very harsh yet beautiful, and it was harmonious. It really, it's like, and I don't know how to tell this to people, but I went there with all this fear that, I was going to kick up all these things that I saw in Afghanistan, things I don't even probably remember. I was from my childhood. It didn't. It did eventually, but we'll get into that later. But the first experience was, it almost, what I've always said is, it seems the medicine seems to demand harmony in the family first. The first place it took me to my mother, it took me to my father, my grandmother. It took me there before, many ceremonies later, it took me back to Afghanistan. But that's not just me. I sit back and listen, and I hear other folks saying, I thought, and they say the same thing. So I call it smart medicine. I don't know how you like it. It's just, it knows what to give you. It gives you, like Carlos says often, it gives you what you need, not necessarily what you want.
Yeah.
So
That's beautifully said. I can't wait to hear some more of your stories going forward. We're going to take a really quick break and come right back and delve more into your journeys, gentlemen. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We like to rock out here in the doghouse.
I was gonna say I don't watch commercials normally, but I was into that. I was like, this is great.
So we are with Operation Purify. They are here in the doghouse sharing their journeys and their stories with plant medicine. Very chill, very deep. Carlos Duran and Ryan Carey. Let's dive back into it. I was really getting into it, talking about prior lives and that sort of thing. Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive back into it. Where would you guys like to go from here?
I'll go, Ryan.
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge something, which is one, we all have stories we tell ourselves, right? And we believe these stories to be very true, right? I mean, most of us are a little crazy, we would say, but and seldom are we challenged to look at the possibility of where this story may be a little fuzzy, right? Where there's the perspective not fully in focus. These stories the ancestors teach begin to accumulate weight in our life. And these are the things that hold us back. And to really drive the point home, in one of our recent Operation Purify, we had a brother come down, Jared. And Jared, before service, was an amazing artist. He could manual jewelry, sculptures, everything. He lost his right arm. It was terrible. He pulled his buddy over the wall. He had already cleared. And when he pulled his buddy over the wall, the buddy tripped the mine. And so his buddy dies in his arms and he loses his arm. And the road to recovery was, anyway, long story short, he begins to identify that he was a right-handed artist. So from the moment this horrible tragedy takes place to the time he comes to be with us in Colombia, his story became, I was a right-handed artist. I lost my right arm. Therefore, I can no longer create art.
Right.
And if you are an artist, like if you are, like you're listening to this, yeah, dude, I get it. How frustrating it is when you can't express your art. You know, and if you're not much of an artist, maybe maybe you weight train, maybe you roll jujitsu, but that thing that you love to do, when you can't do it, right? The frustration that builds, that inability to express yourself. What did he discover at Operation Purify was that he was now a left-handed artist. And before he left, he was creating sculptures with putty and painting with his left hand again.
And I mean, not like I'm not even gonna try to compete with him with my good arm. I mean, they were like, his sculptures were incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. You would say that's art, not my kid did it.
Yeah. No, not Ryan did it. Ryan didn't do it. Same thing.
So what the plant medicine does, it begins to unravel the stories in your life that have created the weights that are holding you back from being happy, from being fulfilled, from knowing that you're good enough. How many of us, for how long, I remember in my life, 26, 28 plus years of knowing that I was not worthy of being loved. I was not good enough to be loved. There's no way, bro, you just couldn't love me. There's no way, right? That was my story. And that's so many of our stories. We know that this is true. What Nathaniel Thoreau, most men lead quiet lives of desperation. We hold it in, we suppress it, right? We learn not to express ourselves. And so the Yahe comes in and begins to remove, and I mean absolutely erase the barriers, the stories, the limiting beliefs, the shame, the guilt, all of it. And I like people that go to talk therapy when they come to plant medicine. Because if you go to talk therapy and you've been doing it, then you understand there's something about talk therapy. I'm neither for it nor against it. What I'm saying is there's a baseline of understanding if you've ever experienced talk therapy, right? Especially if you had 2 or 3 therapists, you kind of figure out, oh, this is kind of like the same, they're kind of running me through a question and answer kind of maze kind of thing, whatever. And it's good. I know it's been good for me. I like it when people that go to talk therapy come to drink medicine because they will tell you the same thing. Wow. Last night in that one ceremony, I felt like I got 100 hours of talk therapy. Yeah. Sometimes they say 1,000, but really, really, the number that keeps coming up, people say 100 hours because talk therapy is typically measured in how many hours, right? And then eventually you get to how many years or how many times you've been going through the years. So to me, it's absolute social proof that this really works.
Right.
And after 13 years, I've had the blessing of sitting with all kinds of individuals, from super high caliber athletes like Carey from the NFL, Mike Tyson, to amazing CEOs that do, so the CEOs rather remain, but like really high-end people that operate in a different strata of life, not just financially, but the influence that they wield. And I sat with cocktail waitresses, and I've sat with women that are 76, ready to start the next chapter in their life. Full spectrum. The eldest person I've seen in a ceremony, I believe, was 86 years old.
Wow.
Okay. So, having witnessed this, and here's the funny thing, there's someone listening to this that says, oh, that's amazing. I wish it were for me. They know it's not for them. It's for everybody else. You see, Holly, everybody else gets to get healed except me. Right. No, that's bullshit. You deserve the healing. Mm-hmm. Plant medicine is for everyone. When people say, oh, it belongs to this culture or that culture, I'm so grateful for my teacher and I'm so grateful for my grandparents, because many, many years ago, in the morning after a ceremony, a Westerner asked about the appropriation of the culture. And I happened to be the interpreter at that time, in that moment. And so when I translated, the first thing that I was asked was, what does appropriation mean? Like this concept. So that was interesting. And then the answer forever changed my heart. My teacher said, this healing, like all healing, belongs to God, to the Creator, to the Most High, the Great Spirit, whatever name you give. The Great Spirit created all of his children, one race, the human race. How can anyone appropriate something that God gave to his children? And so I realized that day that this was truly meant to be shared with the world. And what I've learned through the years from direct experience is that this is for everyone, especially the person that thinks this is not for them.
I love that definition. I'm going to trademark that and take that as well. I'm Native American, so I'm out here on the Wind River Indian Reservation. And so we have ceremony. I go to a women's sweat ceremony once a month. And sometimes we have, a little Caucasian come in every once in a while, and I welcome them. The healing is for everyone. The circle includes us all as human beings. So some of the other ladies kind of look at him a little cross-eyed, but it's just kind of like, it's okay. This is our medicine. This is our place to heal. It's for everyone. So I totally drive with that.
Yeah, we're the children of the rainbow, and
Yes.
that requires every color to be one
Yes.
rainbow. It's all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is I had your website up, and I want to make sure that everybody has access to the website and how they can get a hold of you folks. Understand that there is like an intake time or some preparation for the actual trip to Colombia. What all does that entail? Is that like a cleansing before you go to the actual ceremony, or to kind of get you in the right mindset?
Sort of. So the next Operation Purify is going to be August 2nd through August 16th. And we just got the dates in today. So we're going to update that before the sun sets tonight.
Nice.
Um, there is a preparation. We do 3 weeks of live online preparation. We guide you through how to prepare yourself, your family. Ryan is there literally watching your back, got you by the hand, walking you through every step that you need. And then we're off to Colombia. We've had participants come in at the last minute for whatever reason, and that's okay too. But obviously, if you have the time from now to August, or you're listening to this after August 16th, 2025, and you want to come to Operation Purify, or if you have questions or doubts, you want to talk to somebody, you can go right there on the website and book a call, and you'll be speaking to Ryan in a little bit, and we're here for you, right? I mean, like, if you're curious, even just a little bit, please book that call. And that's a great point. And some people aren't able to travel outside the US. And some veterans aren't able to access plant medicine because of the schedule of medication that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
We have an amazing partner in South Carolina, a Coastal Ketamine and Aesthetics. And Coastal Ketamine and Aesthetics, they offer veteran scholarships for spiritual ketamine treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually sponsored an entire Operation Purify one time last year. So, and I know Coastal Ketamine Aesthetics is a mouthful. If you're interested, just book a call with us. We'll give you the website. We're here to help veterans heal.
Amazing.
That is our passion.
There's really only two reasons why you couldn't go to Operation Purify if you're a veteran or a family member. It's if you don't have a passport or you're just on too many medications. There's too many restrictions on that. You don't have to be what you may think is ready. I've seen people prepare very well and get ready for it, and other people not at all. The reason why we focus on the preparation is because the preparation is integral to your integration. So that's why, we have a good friend of mine who lives in New Brunswick, and the Indigenous communities in New Brunswick invite any veteran. All warriors are welcome to their sweat lodges. That's a really good way to integrate. That's a really good way to prepare for a Yahe ceremony, because you're connecting with your local Indigenous cultures on top of that. So spiritually, I think it more than helps. And Carlos had talked about it before about, you're going to go there and you're going to have an experience, and your eyes are going to be open. But that's just the beginning. You got work to do. And when you go back, integration is incredibly important. That's why we extended the integration. And Carlos is really good with that. If we're doing, you think the integration, it's 5 weeks. But if we're doing the integration and Carlos is like, okay, we're going to wait a few weeks to do the next one, because he wants people to settle in a bit more. He reads it and sees where we're at. It's not just 5 weeks and then that's it. It's 5 total online sessions, and in between that, they have access to the channel, because you are going to go there, and it is going to be a very big experience. And yeah, you're going to come down a bit from it. Of course you are. That's what integration's for. And you need someone experienced like Carlos to help you with your dreams, or to help you with what's going on during the integration. Not only that, but integrating back into your family, into your work life, whatever. And a guy like me that's going to talk to you about and be relentless about, and not going to take any excuses. You got to exercise. You got to eat well. You got to hydrate. You can't be drinking alcohol. You got, if you're going to be using plant medicine, you have to be using it wisely and with intent. And so this isn't, there's work to do. This isn't a party, right? Like it's a party, but it's a different kind of party when we go to the jungle. But I can say those are the only things that are going to prevent you from getting your full healing, is if you don't put 100% into it, and because it's very easy to go have that experience and go home, and within the first week go back to your old ways.
Oh yeah.
That's why we offer that kind of very in-depth support.
Yeah. Holly, if you have any specific questions about Yahay, if not, I mean, this is a show about cannabis, and there's definitely some things I would love to share around cannabis. You let me know.
I would love that. I'm enjoying this discussion and what you guys got going on. I think it's fantastic. We are on Citizen Green TV. We're going to take a quick break, do a tribute to the troops, come back, and let's talk about cannabis and whatever else comes to mind. Stay tuned. I love the old school aviator glasses.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm messing with you.
Love it. Love it.
Welcome back to Dawg Daze, Operation Purify in the doghouse. Having a fantastic discussion about plant medicine and their organization. Want to touch on cannabis, guys?
Would
Absolutely.
love to. Yeah. Ryan, you want to start or you want me to go?
Oh, I just think the message that I have to veterans that want to explore cannabis, cannabis really helped me lower my medication. It allowed me to, basically switch from taking pharmaceuticals and into plant medicine. But that switch was tumultuous. I didn't have good coaching, and I actually, um, I might as well have been taking a whole bunch of pharmaceuticals because I wasn't using it wisely and with intent. So if you're using cannabis out there and you're a veteran, no shame in taking pharmaceuticals. There was a time where I used them, and that's what was available to me, and it worked. It was fine. It worked. But I'll say this, um, you know, we know that the more medication you're on, if you're chasing the med for your healing, it's no different with cannabis. You can easily chase cannabis down a wrong road, and Carlos has been very key in coaching me on that use, and all use of plant medicine is very similar, because now we're starting to see psilocybin and mushrooms, and Carlos is well trained in that as well. So just my kind of, yes, it's all good, but you could also go drink yahe every weekend and not heal from it because you're not integrating anything. So there's a balance here that I think that the veteran should aim to strike.
I like that. So it's like a lifestyle. It really is like a lifestyle change. It's because I have my Master of Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. It's not legal here in Wyoming, but whenever it does become legalized, I want to be able to use it in a smart way, not to just take cannabis for the sake of taking cannabis. I want that quality. I want that experience. What works for me with my biology and all that kind of stuff. So I'm totally with you 110%. If you're just chasing that high to like get away or whatever, I mean, that works for a while, but to do real healing, you got to be holistic about it.
And it's like I said, it's a conversation on medicine, and no matter what conversation you're going to have on medicine, you better be exercising, you better be eating a whole foods diet, you better be hydrating, you better not be drinking or limiting your alcohol, you better have a prayer practice. Like there's a whole bunch of other things. It just sometimes, for whatever reason, there seems to be a lot of emphasis placed on the medicine side, but not on the other things. And the more that you're focused on those other pillars, the less of it you're going to need. I'm at a point now where I don't use anything. Yeah. I used cannabis, I think 2 weeks ago on a Friday night. I had a little bit. I was called to it. I went in, I played my guitar. It was, but I'm not using anything right now. But I have the tools to go back into it if I need to bring it into my life.
Beautifully said. Well put. Thank you for that. I mean, that's exactly what I'm all about here. And I try to preach all the time too. So thank you for the kind of emphasizing that message.
For us in our culture, Holly, cannabis is, as Ryan said, is Santa Maria, the Holy Mary, or the Holy Mother. And in the Yahe culture, there is a respect and admiration for cannabis. And there's a calling. There's a calling to humanity, to those of us that use cannabis in our life, to support in restoring the value and the respect that this plant medicine deserves. She because for us, cannabis carries feminine energy, and she's seen as a queen mother. But because of, and not just now, because of a prolific use of cannabis as weed, as a drug, especially through the last 60 years or so, right? This big party element around Santa Maria. The ancestors teach that this has lowered her energy, right? It's lowered her value in the eyes of humanity, basically. So it's a call to see this plant, first of all, as an ally, right? There's a reason why we keep using cannabis in our life. There's a reason why Ryan says it's a tool that he can call in when he feels called to, because it's a spiritual resource. It is a tool, like cacao, like the sacred mushrooms, like the yahe. Santa Maria is a sacred tool. Yeah. So we develop a relationship. My grandparents teach with the plants, with the consciousness, right? There's one teacher in a classroom, but each student has their own understanding and their own relationship with the teacher, even though the teacher is teaching the same thing to everybody. So the invitation is to begin to see Santa Maria, cannabis, as a spiritual ally. Yeah. And so when we talk about a spiritual ally, and what my grandparents teach about working with cannabis is the absolute best is if you can know the source of where it was grown. And hopefully it's organic, because now you know whose hand and whose energy and whose consciousness is going into the soil, is going into your plant medicine. Yep. Right? And if not, then hopefully you can go to a dispensary or secure a source that you know at least it's organic, right? And farmed. We look for things that honor the earth, especially when they're commercial, right? If I put chemicals into the earth to produce this product that then I sell to you, that for us is out of balance. So we look for the imbalance as much as possible from the origin. And when we bring this plant medicine home, we can sing to it, we can put music for it, we can smudge it if you want, if you're into that. We hold a sacred space for it. Maybe it's an altar, maybe it's a little box, right? Not just thrown in plastic, wrapped up, thrown in the, right? But we give it a special place because at the end of the day, it's offering us a service. And what we're really saying here is, instead of just lighting up or popping the gummy, create a conscious relationship with this plant, a dialogue. And before you ingest her, before you commune with her, because it's communion. This is, the same thing as in the Christian or the Catholic Church. There's the wafer or the bread and the wine. It's communion. You're ingesting this energy to make it part of you. So the invitation is to try for 30 days to begin to develop a sacred relationship. There's no wrong way to do it. Give it a special place, give it music. And before you ingest, have a conversation with the cannabis, even if it's a gummy. Ask the ancestral memory of this plant to activate in your life and to use it for your healing and to teach you along the way how to best nourish and develop this relationship. And when you do that with an honest heart and you really put it into practice, like boots on the ground, it will change your relationship with cannabis and it will empower you in this relationship. Guaranteed. It's true. Sometimes we have to take a conscious, what we call a diet. I know I've had 2 big diets in my life from Santa Maria, 6 months and 8 months. Now I do smaller diets along the way, but these 2 primary diets were given to me by my teacher. And because I've been smoking since I was 16, right? So like every day. And so this changed by creating this diet, where I took a space from ingesting cannabis and rather just spoke to the cannabis that was already in me, this energy that I've accumulated. So that might be necessary, but just that small practice, that's really the focus. Where am I sourcing it? Celebrating when you bring it into your home with music, with a special place, with a little bit of incense or sage, and then a communication before you ingest. Your intention, your desire, your need, but to consciously commune with this plant. Yeah,
I love that, because I have asked some people. I said, "Hey, what is your favorite modality?" And a lot of people like to smoke because it's a ceremony. It's the grinding of the flower. It's looking at the bud. Oh, like I bought this, and isn't it nice? And oh, it smells good. You got to smell it too, you know. Oh, it smells good, and you grind it. And some people don't like the electric; they like the actual, you know, hand grinding it. So it's like a whole little ceremony,
It
and that's
is.
like part of their experience. So I totally dig it.
It
Totally dig
really
it.
is. Smoking Santa Maria can be an absolute ritual and ceremony in your life, 100%.
Awesome. Great. So we're about ready to wrap up. I want to definitely do another plug for the Operation Purify. And if anybody is interested, they have a big green button here. I believe if you click it, will get in touch with these folks who can get you squared away with getting the process started. It's a phone call, right? And you just kind of get a feel for the veteran and what they're expecting, and you
Yeah,
kind of give them
100%.
a
Normally, it's just I'll reach out to them through email and say, "Hey, you want to jump online, have a chat or a phone, a text, whatever." There's so many ways to get in touch these days that there's no excuse not to. And it's just to have a conversation. There's no commitment needed. It's just to talk, and you know, it like we said before, it's open to all veterans. You don't have to be male, you don't have to be female, you don't have to have served in this unit or that unit. Did you join? Yes or no? Okay, and you served. And we're opening it to family members as well, because we know that the effects on the family. Had a beautiful ceremony not long ago where a father showed up with his son, and that was really, it wasn't, they weren't veterans, but you know, something like that, I could definitely would love to do that with one of my children for sure, who are now teenagers and seem to know everything. So I'd like them to go have a little bit of yahe, just see how much more that they can learn. But yeah, it's really a very low stress chat just to see where they're at, and to talk through whatever questions they may have.
awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on Dawg Daze. Until next time, stay safe out there, folks.